Hey Gearheads, Steve Moore here from Tech Support, bringing you another how-to video. Today we will review the steps needed to set up our PTZ auto tracking camera, the LVUPTZ. In our previous tutorial video, we worked on the Maestro camera, which is an ePTZ camera. This camera actually has a fully movable PTZ head on it, gets you a little bit better shot angle and stuff than the Maestro can provide, but it's also a little bit more complex to set up. We have a lot of people kind of getting tripped up, so we're going to do this video here. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll be up and running with no difficulty. So let's get right into it. So once we've got our camera connected, plugged in, connected to the network, the next step we need to do is download our software. It should come on a flash drive that's included with your camera purchase. If you did not get it or if you lost it, no need to worry. You can go to the support page and the download section, and it's available as a free download there. So once you download that, go ahead and extract it from the file. You will need a program called WinRAR, W-I-N-R-A-R. That will extract the files from the archive and then put it on your desktop and open it on up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up our software here. We see the basic interface on this opening page. We've got some PTZ controls here. We have our start and stop commands for the auto tracking process, and we have the setup button. So obviously we need to set this guy up. First step is go ahead and click stop auto tracking. Should be that out of the box, but if it's not, you want to make sure it's turned off, so it doesn't hurt anything to go ahead and click stop. Then we'll go ahead and select setup. This next page here, you will see a scan and apply button. What this is going to do is scan your network for your connected camera. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. It scans and it shows my camera here, and you'll notice there are two IP addresses here. This camera does have two network adapters. There's actually two cameras in one chassis, so that's why there are two IP addresses, and it's important that you record both of those so that the setup calibration process works correctly. Once I go ahead and select this, it's going to fill in the details over here on the right. Depending on your network setup, the auto scan utility may not work. In that case, you would need to use a network scanner and go ahead and enter that information in there manually. You should have that information already after networking your camera, so shouldn't be a big deal. This is just a little convenience feature here. Once I do this, I'm going to go ahead and select apply, and I'm going to click next. This takes us to our first setup screen. So this is for the auto tracking portion of the camera. We've got a movable PTZ head, which is our auto tracking camera, and there is also a panoramic camera that is fixed lens that's located in the base. The camera uses this as a reference for our tracking. So for our movable portion here, we'll go ahead and test our controls, verify that we're working, and what we're going to do is set our presets. So the first step, go ahead and click home, make sure that camera is in the home position, and you'll see an area, display rather, of your target area. So the first thing you want to set is the Panoramic Preset. What that means is the widest angle shot that you're going to use this movable head for. So for our cases, I want to go ahead and zoom in a bit so I don't see the ceiling there because it's not the prettiest. Maybe I'll come out just a touch. Right about there. So the reason this is an important preset, I'll go ahead and set it here by clicking set. This is where we're going to have the camera return to if it ever loses tracking or if somebody leaves the target area. This camera will revert to this new home position, if you will, of the Panoramic Preset. The reason I recommend you set it this way is that way, let's say it loses tracking while it's zoomed on in on a person and they move off to the side, you're just going to have an empty shot of the wall there while the other person has moved out of the frame. By having it revert to that Panoramic Preset, while it's reacquiring the target, you'll still at least capture your subject even if they're not perfectly framed. That way you're not just looking at dead space. So the next one we're going to do is the tracking preset. For this, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and this is going to be roughly like a torso shot is what I'm going to set up today. It may vary depending on your needs, but it's also very helpful to have a test subject with you. Have them go stand in the target area there, and you can frame them in exactly the way you want and store that setting. I've set this up a couple of times, so I know where I need to set it for. So we'll get it right here, and I am going to select Set Tracking Preset. Now I have a couple of view buttons here just to verify that these did in fact apply. So I'm going to click View Panoramic Preset. We'll see it jump back out. I'll click View Tracking Preset. Snaps back in. We're good to go. We can go ahead and click Next here in our wizard utility, and on our next page here, you will see that we've got several sets of advanced setup controls. This is our panoramic camera that's located in the base of the camera. This is what is used as the tracking reference. So what I'm going to do first, over here on the left, I've got my area settings. The first option is platform area. This is the area in which, if you move into it, you're considered a target, and the camera will begin tracking you. So for me, this area is going to be this wall right here. It's kind of dependent on what your space is like. It could be the entirety of a wall. It could be just a narrow little area if you don't want to move it too much. But generally, it's just going to be the entirety of your stage or platform area that your tracked subject will be located in. Once I've done that, I basically just start from the top left, click and drag, draw this box across. When I release the left button, it draws the box and it records it. I'll go ahead and click Save over here just to be safe, and jump to my next area setting, which is the tracking area. The difference between this and the platform area, this is actually the allowable movement area, for lack of a better term. This is wherever I walk inside this other square, the camera is going to move to follow me. The first one was just to pick up a target. This is now the target's been acquired. What areas should I track this person in? That's what we're telling the camera right now. So it'll probably come with some sort of pre-drawn box in it. Don't worry about that. Basically, all you have to do to start a new box is left click. So I'm going to start right here. I can click and release. And now as I move my mouse across, it's going to draw a line. When I get to my next point, I click again, and it'll record that point, and now I can move around a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and move this one down this side wall here just for fun, because what are we doing if we're not having fun, right? I'm going to go ahead and go down another click, and I'll have it cover this much floor space out in front. Another click here, and then one more click to complete my box. Now you notice as I move this, I've still got a line stuck here. If I right click, line goes away, we're good to go. Now you see our shop dog running around here. Don't mind him. The next step is the mask area. The mask area doesn't come into play too much in this space that we're working with today, but let's say I've got a window or a door or a TV, a monitor, something like that in the background. I need to mask that off because that is something that can confuse the tracking. This camera does best with nothing in the background. It's always not always possible to do that. I know some of you have some podiums, plants, things like that around in the background, but getting your area as clean as you can is pretty critical to the proper operation of this camera. So once you've got your space set up, if unfortunately you've got something there that can't move, then you want to mask that off. So let's say I had a TV over here in the corner. I would basically check the first box under mask area, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a square around that TV. Once I've done that, that tells the camera, ignore this space. Whatever happens there, don't worry about it. The problem with getting too many masked areas, let's say I've got a TV there, I've got one here, got one over here. Let's draw a couple of boxes here. And then let's say I've got a big tall lectern here in the front, so I want to mask that off. And then I've got another TV over here. Now I don't have much room left for the camera to actually track, so it's not going to work very well. So room setup, again, is critical to this camera operating successfully for you. So don't underestimate how important that is. Anything roughly the size and shape of a human body has a chance of being picked up as a false target. So make sure that you've got a good clean area for your tracking if you want it to work the best that it can. So I will go ahead and mask off this little corner over here, just because who's interested in mop buckets and such? Nobody wants to look at that. So I'll go ahead and save that. The next one here is my boundary adjustment. If I go to one of these guys here, let's say I pick the right-hand side, I can cheat that right side of my box in or out if I want to. I'm not too worried about that because I'm really good at drawing boxes with a mouse, it turns out. So we can go on to the next one, which is our advanced settings. Over here, we've got our sensitivity. This is how sensitive the camera is to movement for the tracking. So if I had the sensitivity set pretty low, it's going to wait until I have some serious movement going on for it to start tracking me. If I have it too high, if I'm just leaning back and forth a little bit, swaying around while I'm talking, the camera might sit there and move constantly and make all my viewers seasick. So it's kind of a balancing act there. It's very dependent on how far from the camera you are and how still or how much movement you've got from your presenter. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to about 6, a little bit more than halfway. Tracking speed. This again is very dependent on how far from the camera your subject is. If they're very close, you're going to need a higher speed to be able to keep up with them. If they're a little bit farther away, maybe you can keep that down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go to, we'll try 5 for now, just in case. I like to move a little quick sometimes. Last setting here is our target loss timeout in seconds. So right now it's set to 0. I want to make sure that's set to at least 2, I would recommend. This gives the camera, let's say it loses the tracking on my subject. This gives the camera 2 seconds to reacquire the target before it jumps back to that panoramic preset that we set earlier. So this can help if, let's say you've got a confusing room where there's some stuff going on and it's a little prone to losing the target. Give it a little bit of time to catch up and you should be fine. If you wait too long, you could wind up with an empty frame. If you set it too low, the camera could jump in and out. But generally it's pretty good at staying locked onto the target, but I think 1-2 seconds is a pretty good number right there. So I'm going to set that and I'm going to hit save. I've also got this other option right here, which is vertical image flip. That's if you have the camera mounted to a ceiling. Go ahead and click that and it'll flip it around so the image is not upside down. Pretty handy feature that. Our last little box over here on the right is our target loss action. So we discussed this a little bit earlier when we were setting our presets. I highly recommend you use the return to panoramic preset. That way if it loses a target, it's just going to jump to a nice widescreen shot where you're guaranteed to get something instead of nothing. Everybody likes something more than nothing, right? In most cases. Not always. Our next option here is return to tracking preset. That one, it could work out for you depending on what your setup is, but I still recommend the panoramic. And then we have maintain current position. That's the camera just does nothing until it gets another target. That would be my last choice, but maybe for what you're going on, that's the one you want. You got the options. So I'm going to go ahead and select save parameters here, and I'm going to click finish, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click start auto tracking here, and then we'll go jump in front of the camera and see how this baby works. So as I walk into frame here, my camera's going to zoom in and get my nice close-up shot that I set. So we're going to imagine that I'm doing some sort of a lecture here right now. I might be pacing back and forth, explaining things to the wonderful people out in the audience here. And as I move, I need to be cognizant of the fact that this camera is not designed for fast motion. It's not designed for sports, anything like that. It's designed for a single individual in a controlled setting. A lot of extra people around are not going to work. It needs to be a single individual on stage. I want to really, really emphasize that because it just won't work. You want to have as clear of an area as you can for the best results. Obviously, that's not always possible, but make every effort you can to keep it that way, and you'll have a much better experience with this guy. So this is designed for lecture capture. This is not designed for sports. It's not designed for high-speed activities. If I start hustling here, I can very quickly get out of frame before the camera catches up with me. So keep that in mind as you're setting it up and you're using it, that you have to work within the parameters of the camera. So now that you've had a good visual example of how this camera works, how to go through the setup process, hopefully this gets you up and running pretty easily, gets you onto smooth sailing with your new auto tracking camera. If not, you can always reach us in tech support. We're happy to help you out. And until next time, stay safe out there and stay tuned for more cool new products from BZB Gear. Please like and subscribe on our channel, and we'll see you the next time.